I have my hair doing everything that I don't want it to do. So the experiment on exactly how to do my hair in finger waves, that was trial number 1. That was a fail. Won't be doing again. Do not recommend. Okay, so I am not discussing my hair. Not today. My hair is a disappointment. I shall not be discussing my hair today. All right, let us go back to sewing. Welcome back to the Nora Show. Today we are going to be attempting the 1 hour 20s dress. It was an incredibly popular pattern for the entirety of the 20s. All right, so this is the plan. First, I'm gonna have a cup of coffee and some cake. Second, I'm going to print off the pattern and tape it together. Next, I'm going to clean up my sewing table and clear off this table so that I can cut out the pattern and actually sew it. I'm going to start a stopwatch though, because it says it's a 1 hour dress. Is it? Putting the pattern together itself, for me, takes about an hour. I'm going to assume that the 1 hour part does not include buying the pattern on a computer, printing it off on a printer, and taping it together. I'm going to assume that the 1 hour part is the part that we're at now. I'm going to trace it onto a permanent piece of pattern paper that does not have a bunch of tape in it, because I am not going to be changing height anytime soon. I stay fairly stable in my weight, and I'm not too worried about my weight changing with this dress, simply because this is a 1920s dress that looks deeply comfortable and not at all fitted in any one place to make this difficult to fluctuate in size. So what I'm going to do is actually roll out some paper over this, trace out the pattern sizing that I think is going to fit me best. I think that I've got a solid shot at making this pattern work for me because it's so simple. Before we begin, let me read you the description of this. It's still early in the day, so I don't think I need my reading glasses just yet. All right. This is a digital printed home sewing pattern for the famous 1920s 1 hour dress. The one-piece dress design was first popularized in the very early 1920s and remained a popular silhouette until the late 1920s. The only thing that changed over the years was the hemline, making this easy to sew pattern versatile for nearly a decade. This dress is incredibly easy to sew, being made of only 2 pattern pieces. The dress neckline is slashed at center front and closed at the neck or rolled to form reavers. The reavers may be faced, if you like, for a contrast collar look. The body of the dress is slashed in at the hips and gathered for a charming effect. The lower edges of the kimono sleeves may be turned back to form cuffs or left longer and hemmed. Let's read those instructions, that instruction, and that instruction, because that's the sum total of instructions that I get with this dress. Cutting instructions. If you study the cutting layout carefully before beginning to cut, you will avoid unnecessary errors. Obvious statement, totally true. Any alterations you wish to make in the paper pattern should be made before you cut the material. Also rather obvious, also very true. Directions for lengthening or shortening are given on the pieces where necessary. Lay the pattern pieces on the material according to their size, the largest ones first. Important, seam allowance. Note that the allowance for all seams in this pattern is 3/8 of an inch, the exact size of perforations used. Are right here. Oh, look at that. Okay. And next, we're going to do a facing. Let's see what they have. Ooh, I need my glasses. Give me. Okay. Facing a slashed opening. Do not slash until the facing is on. Cut and baste the facing to the garment following instructions given in the Deltour. The Delineator was an American women's Butterick sewing magazine that provided an in-depth look into current fashion. Publication ran from 1869 to 1937. This opening being simply a slash where no seam allowance can be made, it is necessary to taper the sewing from 3/8 of an inch each side of the center at the neck to 1/8 inch at lower end of opening, in order to have the lower end of opening at nearly a point as possible. To keep the stitching in a straight line, draw a line with tailor's chalk and ruler and stitch on the chalk line. Cut through the center almost to the lower end of the stitching, turn the facing to the wrong side with the seam in, edge, and baste. This actually looks crazy doable. Okay, a hem. A hem is a finish for the edges of garments, household linens, etc. It is made by turning the edge of a material over twice. The first turning should be narrow and must, of course, be perfectly even. The depth of the second turn depends on where the hem is used and the effect you want to give. To make a second turning of the same depth throughout the length, fascinating. I also have instructions on how to hand stitch a buttonhole. I have instructions on how to do a hem without hem tape, how to finish slash gathers. Stitch a strip of facing 1.5 inches wide to upper edge of slash on right side of material along the seam end. You're going to flip that under. You'll have a nice edging, and then the ruffle part you'll bring up, and and since it's ruffled, it's that same situation where you're going to have a little bit of a puckering where it starts, simply because it's the same material and now you're bringing it up under it. It'll be fine. That is the design. Okay, I'm going to give you a picture of what I'm looking at. It really is 2 pieces. And you know what? I'm going to skip the serger, because I actually want to know if I could do this in 1 hour. take up a lot more fabric than I was expecting. It's very strange. I'm actually working with more fabric for a 1920s dress with 2 pattern pieces than any of the 1940s dresses that are far more seams, far more is going on. So this is fascinating. Front, back, the sleeves will attach, this and that gets sewn together, and then this needs to gather together into the hip area. I am going to very carefully cut everything out. I'm going to reread the instructions, and because there's not many of them, so it's not like it's going to take a long time to read the small little paragraph that has to do with this. We are never discussing my hair. This is ridiculous. All right, back to sewing. There is a 4.5 inch slit that I am going to cut right here. This is the facing that will go inside, and then there will be ruffles that get sewn underneath it. I am going to be a hippie woman in this dress, and I'm going to embrace it. This should work perfectly fine. The measurement from the fold, the middle of the dress, to the side seam, so from here to here, it's giving a full 11 inches for the front. So the front hip, it's going to be a total of 22 inches. I'm sorry, that was the back. 22 inches in the back for the hip. And then for the front, oh wow, that's a full 12 inches. Why is the back less than the front? Huh, that's interesting. That really is the front. Fascinating. Okay, so the front is about 12 inches. So that's 12 inches on both sides. So that's going to be 24 inches in the front, 22 in the back. If I can't get myself in this, no more cake for me. All right. So there should be ample room for me to be able to slide this over my head with the net. This is a brilliant dress. Let's do this. I think that I am missing some fundamental concept of the 1920s silhouette. I don't think that I entirely understand where I'm going or what was supposed to happen with this dress. So I'm not done with it, but I don't have a plan yet. So it's time now to do some ironing, my weekly ironing of all of my house dresses, and sit and think with my Butternick 1927 edition on sewing. And I also think that I should pick up a few fashion magazines from the 1920s. Something right dead center, maybe a little above, maybe a little below, maybe, 3 different time periods during the 1920s, and see what it is that is being said to the women of that time period. And I want to fuss with this. And I also think that I need a contrasting fabric, so I'm going to make that purchase as well. So obviously this dress shall not be finished in this episode. That's going to have to come on a later episode after some research, because that's a thing here. I prefer my 1940s hair. It's a lot easier.